Okay, can you get us? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Y'all are on it.
Okay. Okay. So,
Okay. So our first question we have is, how was your undergrad experience?
Well, I went to San Diego State University right out of high school, and I thought, well, I love biology, and chemistry, and science. I'm just gonna be a biology major, actually, is what I wanted to do. And, first biology was okay, the same thing as you're learning, and then biology too. I was like, oh, this is it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just try it. And it was okay. I was just like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to do this. So I just took some regular prereq for like general study. And then I took time off to start a family. And then, but I went into a career of being a pharmacy tech because I already knew a lot from my dad was a doctor. So I knew how to like read prescriptions back in the old days where they used to write them and, kind of code. So, there's like HS is bedtime. OD, OS. Weird. So I got that job for about 5 years, and then I went to work in a chemo area, and that's what made me want to go to nursing school. I don't know, that was part of some of the other questions I was going to ask. So, but my undergrad experience was, I think it was harder than I thought it was going to be. So, right out of high school, I was in a small town, and Huntsville is not very big either, but it was ginormous. And it was, going to classes, they were big, and talking to people, and so it was intense for me.
I think we can all agree on that.
yeah, our bio classes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like texting all this morning. I'm like, I don't know anything.
So the next question is, what were the difficulties of nursing school for you?
When I got to go to nursing school, I had, like I said, I was mixing chemo, and I saw some nurses out. It was actually for the company that I work for now, which is weird. It was in Fort Worth, and I thought, oh, I could do what those nurses are doing. So I went back to school, and the biggest challenge at first was it's an hour away, and I had to go every day and commute. So I carpooled, and you had to the crack of dawn, and you have to do clinicals, and so I mean, Allison was like 8, and her sister was 6, so it was a lot of them juggling and all that. So as far as nursing school though, I was pretty comfortable with it, so it wasn't too bad.
Did you know that you always wanted to become a nurse?
No. Didn't think I like working with the public in general.
Mhm.
When I worked in a pharmacy, I worked at Walmart first. I was at the register, and they were like, I had a customer come up to me, and they were like, is it that bad? And I thought, I'm working at Walmart.
Yeah.
It's not bad. So they put me in the back. It's counting pills and stuff. And then that's when I moved to Fort Worth and did the mixing of the chemo, which was very interesting. We learned a whole new line of drugs and how to mix them. And I work at a hospital beside that place too, at Cook Children's Hospital in Fort Worth. So it was pretty cool.
So you said the most difficult class. What was your most difficult class?
I think it was the biology too. Yeah.
Mhm.
It was just so much more than I anticipated. Depth, so we'll look into some other areas. I never thought of nursing, not until I actually worked around like patients. Because when I wasn't busy mixing chemo, I would go out and give them juice and crackers. But I knew that I wanted to do more than just be a pharmacy tech. I needed a career. Pharmacy tech is good. They make good money, but kind of top out. So like, I'll try nursing.
Yeah, what were some challenges you faced working with patients?
Early on, a lot has changed. Early on, the patients were fairly confident in anything that you told them. They're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to question anything. And so you kind of get to where you're more comfortable in your role as a nurse and, teaching patients, and they listen to you. And then, as the internet evolved and 2000 when I 2003 when I graduated, so over 20 years ago. Then they started Googling everything, and they started yelling at
Question.
me. And I'm like, oh, what? Yeah, I'm like, oh, yeah, let me go check on that for you, even though I've been a nurse for
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's kind of the thing with working with the patient population. They know a lot, and a lot of it is good information, but some of it I'm like, no, sugar does not cause cancer. We would all.
Yeah, what type of nursing intrigued you the most throughout your career?
So there was like in my whole nursing class, there was 200 of us, and everybody wanted to work with the babies or work in the ER, and I didn't want to do that. Neither one of those. And because I had worked with oncology patients mixing the chemo, I thought that's what I want to do because it's very rewarding when you're working outpatient. When you're inpatient, it's a little intense and kind of sad, but you know, at least you see a lot of patients do very well when they're doing outpatient. A lot of them are working, they're living regular lives, they're.
Did you say outpatient and inpatient?
Yeah,
That's-
outpatient is whenever I'm giving chemo, like when you go to a regular clinic, where they just come in, like sometimes on their lunch hour and they're like, I'm getting the chemo real quick. Sometimes chemo lasts all day. And then, I'll start an IV or access, they have these little ports. And then just go back to work, go back to school, pick up the kids. But when you're in the hospital, it's inpatient. And that's when they're pretty much really sick and not doing well. They might get out of the hospital, they might not. So that was too hard for me, so decided to stay outpatient. So I haven't worked like in the hospital, like on the floor, 12-hour shifts for a long time.
What's your favorite part about being a nurse?
Probably just teaching the patients on the chemo and what to expect. There's just so many new drugs, just even in 5 years. I never used to see commercials on TV for chemo drugs, and now they're in People magazine. There's just so many new developments that have made it a lot easier to teach the patients because they've already heard stuff.
So on top of you teaching them new stuff, you're also learning
Oh
new
yeah,
stuff.
absolutely, continuously learning. There's several certifications that you can get to be at a higher level of oncology, and to be honest with you, I think that's really the only thing that I could do. My sister works in postpartum, which is after you have a baby, which I never want to do either. And you get so specialized that I don't know that I could go be like a school nurse or something.
Yeah.
To be out of my element.
Right.
Just like you want to specialize in anything. I'm just an oncology nurse, and that's it. I like to give chemo and teach them about the new stuff coming out, and I continue my education. You have to do like 20 hours every 2 years to update, all the new information that comes out.
20 hours
Of continuing education credits. So it's a lot of continuing education.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, I'm kind of going off of this
No,
right now,
no.
but like what kept you away from the babies?
I don't know. I did work with some oncology for about 3 months. I thought, oh, let me see how it is working with some pediatric patients that have cancer. And it's the parents. I'm one of those parents to be like, oh, you're hurting my kid.
Right.
And really the kids are very strong and resilient. They have their little ports in their tummy. You stick a needle in it and they're fine, but it's the parents that are really nervous and not knowing what to expect, even however much you can assure them. It was too, intense for me. The adults are a little easier. Even like at a children's hospital, you have to make these really tiny doses of everything. I want to work with babies.
Yeah. So can you explain what a typical work day is like for you?
Sure. So I get to work and I have a list of patients, and there are different types of acuities, and acuity is how difficult the patient's going to be, whether it's I just have to give an injection, that's a very low acuity because we're not getting very much, or there's a high acuity where they're going to be there probably all day getting multiple things running at the same time, pumps beeping. So I have a list, and we kind of try and even it out before we start the day. 4 nurses, so somebody doesn't get all the difficult patients. And so then we just kind of I literally walk in circles like 2 to 5 miles a day, just going from pump to change out everything. It takes good time management, which I didn't think I was really good at. But I am in this aspect of my job just because I've just been doing it for so long. And then starting IVs and accessing ports with these needles that a lot of patients are very scared about, and it ends up being not as scary as I think. And it's pretty easy. If, you know, you think of patients getting chemo, like when you watch movies and they're like totally bald or throwing up in, you know, in a trash can. That's not how it is. A lot of people don't lose their hair. We have machines now that have a cooling cap where it can save a lot of your hair. It's more often that patients don't get nauseated or vomit. It's very rare that you see it now because the drugs are just so good.
That's awesome. That is.
Yeah.
I don't.
So
They
you
really
might
don't
find
show you that.
Yeah.
A lot of times you don't even know that patients.
Yeah.
There are some where for sure you're gonna lose your hair, and then otherwise, yeah, you don't really know. You're walking right next to you. And there's a lot of young people who get Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is which is very curable. If they get a high intense regimen of chemo where they do lose their hair, that would be the only thing. But it grows back curly.
What time do you go into work and then leave work?
For me, since I work part-time, if I work full-time, it's just 9 to 5. That's the good thing about working outpatient. It's like bank hours, is what I call it. 9 to 5. That's no weekends, no holidays.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a pretty good job to have, you know, in that area. But since I work PRN, I can get there when I want, if I want. PRN is as needed, so whenever they need me or when I'm available to work.
I have a question. Did you face like any financial struggles trying to become a nurse?
Not for me, only because I got a Pell Grant because I was a single mom. So I literally was able to buy even pencils and books and, you know, everything. They give you your money for the semester, and if you have any left over, you know, I had extra school supplies I gave the kids and stuff like that. So it was not the best route to take. You know, you got 2 kids to support, but thankfully I had, you know, some Pell Grants that I didn't have to pay back or loans that I didn't have to worry about.
Yeah. So how is that like going to nursing school with 2 kids?
It was hard.
Yeah.
A lot of times all they could see me was with my headphones on. They used to listen to Mozart. It really is, that's what we studied.
Yeah.
And they would see me staying up really late. And, I think they understood that I was studying. I was always a reader anyway, so they would always see me with a book. So I don't know that they knew that I was actually studying because they were little, but I think eventually they figured it out that I was going to be a nurse.
Were you working during nursing school?
No, I didn't work because of having to go to school every day. It was, and having to drive every day. Not all nursing schools are like that now, especially now, you know, virtually. So it was every day, like from pretty much 8 to 5. I couldn't really work. I mean, there were nurses who did try and work at the same time, but they struggled more than I did with having the kids because they were a little bit older, so they were not really. They were like, go watch SpongeBob.
Yeah. That's when you had to make like the hour drive
Yeah.
from.
From home to nursing school, anywhere I would go to school, it would have been an hour drive for me. So I went to school in Lufkin, which is close to Nacogdoches. I don't know if y'all heard of Stephen F. Austin. That's kind of in that area there, East Texas. So I had to drive, and my ideal job would have been to go work at MD Anderson, the premier place. It was just too far.
Right.
So when I moved to San Antonio, and they had a really good campus.
Okay. What helps keep you motivated during the tougher moments of nursing?
as the older I get, it's getting a little bit harder because whenever I did start out in oncology, which is where I kind of think of my career as really starting, because that's when I was like the most confident. I'd been a nurse 5 years, and then I was like, oh, I'm good at this now. So, I was, still in my early 30s, so a lot of the patients were older, and you kind of expect, they might get cancer. But now I see a lot of young people even getting, like Allison's age, breast cancer. I'm like kind of scared now, and those have been kind of the more difficult things. I've had some patients that I got close to that passed away. I don't know. I think as the older I get, the more it's getting a little bit more difficult for me to see, am I helping? And I know that I am, in some form. I like to talk to my patients a lot, which is why I didn't go into nursing into the hospital. I don't have time to talk to those patients. And I don't know if y'all have ever been with a family member in the hospital, but hardly ever seen a nurse. But for me, I'll just sit next to them like this and talk to them for a few minutes about what their teachers or what's going on in their life. And here's some pumps beeping. I'm like, I'm coming. So, it's just, I think the older I get, it's getting a little bit harder for me. Emotionally, not physically yet.
Yeah.
I'm only 53, but still a lot. Are any of y'all interested in going into healthcare? I don't know.
I am, yeah, I want to be a labor and delivery nurse. That's the goal. So hopefully it all works out.
That's a fun area. When you do your clinicals, you get to see every area.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was very
Mm.
interesting watching a baby be born.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
Do you have any more questions?
We already asked, do you have any advice for future nurses or anyone going into healthcare?
I think the hardest part is that with being in the United States is that the insurance companies pretty much dictate a lot of the way you get treatment, which is kind of sad because they make a lot of new drugs that help patients get through things like the nausea, or if they get sick, we have this little I don't know if y'all ever seen a little pump or a little insulin thing in commercials for those things that you wear. Well, we have one of those that you can get on the day you get your chemo, so you don't have to come back the next day for a shot. Well, some insurance companies are like, no, you can come back. And a lot of patients don't come back, so they end up in the hospital. So, the fact that our healthcare system, that's a big soapbox of mine, even before I was a nurse. You could see where birth control pills weren't covered, but Viagra was. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So a lot has changed, but not enough. And a lot of stuff is still, you're like, that's not right. And so that makes my job probably the most difficult, is having to deal with the American healthcare system. But otherwise, it's very rewarding. I don't know that I would still be doing it if it wasn't rewarding, seeing patients get through things, whether it's having a baby or getting through cancer. They get to ring a bell and stuff like that. So
Does that ever make you cry?
oh my God, every time.
Yeah.
Every time
Yeah.
that they read this little poem and they start choking up, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't help it. Yeah. So it's very rewarding, and you see a lot of patients that do so well that you got to keep doing it. So I recommend it.
Do you have any advice for us undergrads, like at least trying to finish our degrees, like whichever major we're in?
Just know that you can change your mind. I think that I worry that, oh no, I've got to check this out. Even if I make bad grades, I still got to keep doing this route. And that's just not true. Allison and her sister is 30 and she's thinking about changing careers. I'm like, well, that's what I did. So, I know that you want to be able to know what your dream job is at a young age. But a lot of things change, the world changes, and you find out, oh, that's something that I think I might be interested in. Like I said, I never thought I'd be a nurse. And even though my dad was a doctor, and I just didn't think it was something I would be good at. But you never know. Just try a bunch of stuff. That's what I would say. Just try a bunch of things that you think. But if you do know what you want to do, then go for it.
Where are you?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah. Okay, got that?
All right. Yeah, I got it all.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.